Greetings, friends. You are watching the Ruslan Belov channel. Today we will take a detailed look at the current situation in Ukraine as of January 9th, 2026. Over the past 24 hours, several extremely significant events have taken place, so without unnecessary pauses, let us move directly to the review. Today, the Russian Federation used the Oreshnik combat missile system for the second time since the beginning of the conflict on the territory of Ukraine. Let me remind you that its first combat use took place on November 21st, 2024. That is, approximately 1 year and 2 months ago. Even back then, Western analysts, including both active duty and former military specialists, acknowledged that this system is effectively impossible to intercept and cannot be shot down by existing air defense systems. Footage of the first use of this complex spread across almost the entire world at that time and caused a significant public reaction. After that, the Russian Federation took a long pause, which, as we can now see, lasted nearly 1 year and 2 months. And now, on January 9th, 2026, the Oreshnik system was deployed once again. According to official information from the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation, this use of the system was retaliatory in nature. It was a response to a strike carried out by the Ukrainian side on December 29th against the residence of the President of the Russian Federation located in the Novgorod region. The Ministry of Defense explicitly stated that today's attack was a retaliatory measure. Thus, the use of Oreshnik on this occasion should be regarded specifically as a response strike. At the moment, video footage filmed on the territory of the Lviv region is appearing online. Please note that while in 2024, videos of strikes by this system were mostly published in black and white, today we are seeing footage in color. Filming was conducted from various locations, the cameras were installed in advance, and the strikes were captured from different angles. When comparing the footage, it becomes noticeable that the current strikes visually differ from those observed in 2024. At that time, the separating elements of the warhead really did resemble scattering branches, which is how the system got its name. Now, however, the picture looks different. It gives the impression that powerful lightning bolts are striking the ground. According to sources, this time the missile speed of the Oreshnik complex reached approximately 13,000 kilometers per hour. This is an extremely high figure, and apparently the version of the system used on the night of January 9th, 2026, surpasses the one used in 2024 in terms of its technical characteristics. It cannot be ruled out that the actual speed was even higher, since the final phase of the missile's flight looks visually very different. Previously, the footage showed large fragments falling, resembling bundles of branches, whereas now we observe numerous rapid flashes similar to lightning strikes across the territory of the Lviv region. Additional videos showing the use of Oreshnik from other angles have also emerged. In these recordings, it is especially clear that the nature of the strike has changed and that the speed of the damaging elements has increased significantly. Sources report that the strikes indeed hit the Lviv region, and an active discussion has already unfolded regarding the objectives of the attack and its true purpose. During the night, a number of pro-Ukrainian resources published a video in which local residents unsuccessfully attempt to ignite a gas stove. Gas pressure in the system is practically non-existent. Based on these images, some analysts and experts suggested that the strikes may have targeted a gas storage facility near the town of Stry. This is one of the largest gas storage facilities in Ukraine, capable of holding up to half of the country's total gas reserves. If this version is confirmed, the consequences for Ukraine's energy system could be extremely serious and difficult to predict. However, later on, a number of Ukrainian sources stated that the strike on the Lviv region was primarily demonstrative in nature. According to their version, the Russian side was demonstrating its capabilities to European countries. This is supported in particular by the fact that the strike hit almost the westernmost point of Ukraine. Experts emphasize that neither Ukrainian air defense systems, nor NATO countries' systems, nor even American intelligence assets were able to detect the approach of these missiles. Essentially, only the moment of impact was recorded, after which the entire episode ended. In the morning, maps published by pro-Ukrainian sources began to appear online. One of these maps shows the routes of strikes carried out across Ukrainian territory on the night of January 9th, 2026. In total, 4 main strike areas were recorded. These include Kryvyi Rih and Pavlohrad, where Geran-type drones were used in the southern part of the country, as well as the city of Kyiv. The capital bore the brunt of the attack, with a large number of strikes carried out using both drones and various types of missiles, including Kaliber cruise missiles and ballistic missiles, presumably hypersonic or from the Iskander family. A significant number of strikes hit Kyiv, and serious damage to critical infrastructure facilities was recorded. Already in the morning, local authorities issued strict calls urging residents to drain water from pipes and heating systems. The reason lies in severe frost and the lack of an opportunity to promptly restore heat supply. There is a high probability that water will freeze inside the pipes, which could lead to a complete degradation of the capital's heating system until spring or even the summer of 2026. On the published maps, a long red line is also clearly visible, stretching across almost the entire territory of Ukraine in a western direction. This line marks the trajectory of the Oreshnik missile strike. However, there are several important details here. Later, the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine published summary data on the number of Russian strike assets used. According to these figures, on the night of January 9th, the Russian Federation used a total of 278 aerial targets, including drones, Iskander missiles, Kaliber missiles, and the Oreshnik system itself. It is important to emphasize that this strike cannot be described as the most powerful since the beginning of the conflict. Essentially, it was a standard large-scale strike, similar to those carried out almost daily. The increased media attention was likely caused by the fact that the main focus of the attack was Kyiv. Nevertheless, in terms of the volume of forces involved, this was not a record-breaking attack, and this is a fundamentally important point. I would also like to remind you that the day before, strikes were carried out against the city of Dnipro. We discussed this topic in detail yesterday. As a result of those strikes, a large-scale blackout was recorded in the city. Pro-Ukrainian sources published maps and videos showing that Dnipro was effectively left without electricity. This situation remains unchanged at the moment. It cannot be ruled out that the strikes on the Dnipropetrovsk region were intended to divert the attention of the Ukrainian side away from Kyiv and the western regions. Thus, the attack on Dnipro may have been part of a broader plan implemented on the night of January 9th. At the same time, it is important to note another point. According to data from the previous day, during the strikes on the Dnipropetrovsk region, the Russian side used fewer than 100 drones, approximately 97 units. On the night of January 9th, in turn, 278 aerial targets were used, including both drones and missiles. If we summarize, over the past 36 hours, the Russian Federation has used fewer than 400 aerial strike assets in total. Even if we consider a 2-day period, this still does not reach the scale of the most powerful strikes carried out since the beginning of the conflict. These figures clearly demonstrate that even with relatively limited forces, Russia is capable of inflicting serious and tangible damage on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. This is likely directly related to a shortage of effective air defense systems on the Ukrainian side. The next conclusion, and perhaps the most fundamentally important one that can be drawn at this moment, is as follows. Despite the fact that the Russian Federation used the Oreshnik missile system on the night of January 9th, this does not mean that the main, so-called primary winter strike has been carried out. On the contrary, an analysis of the number of drones employed points to a completely different picture. Yes, the use of Oreshnik itself indicates the seriousness of the attack and the deployment of high-tech weapons. But the overall number of strike assets clearly shows that this was not the maximum power strike. Moreover, there is an extremely high probability that in the coming days, the Russian Federation will employ its accumulated potential, the hundreds of drones that have already been stockpiled. Thus, what we are witnessing now is most likely not the end of this phase of strikes. In any case, we continue to closely monitor how events will unfold further. However, I will emphasize once again, a blackout has been recorded in Kyiv. Footage has been published online showing the moment of the power outage on the night of January 9th. We see that at first the city is illuminated, then a bright flash occurs, after which the lights gradually go out across almost the entire capital. In this context, city authorities are once again urging residents to drain water from heating and water supply systems in order to prevent pipes from freezing and to minimize damage during the repair period. At the same time, Kyiv authorities are already calling on residents of the capital and other large cities to temporarily leave major urban centers and relocate to areas where alternative sources of electricity, water and heating are available. We will continue to follow how the situation develops. Ukraine, for its part, has convened an urgent emergency meeting of the NATO-Ukraine Council, as well as a session of the United Nations Security Council. Most likely, it is on these platforms that the Ukrainian side will raise all these issues and seek the introduction of new sanctions against the Russian Federation. However, information is coming not only from the Ukrainian side. During the same night, while the Russian army was carrying out massive strikes on Ukrainian territory, the Ukrainian side launched a retaliatory strike. Today, footage of objective control has emerged from the area of the city of Belgorod. These videos show a missile strike on an energy infrastructure facility, presumably an electrical substation or power supply station. As a result of the strike, partial power outages and local voltage fluctuations were observed in the city. These materials were published by the Ukrainian side. Another strike on an energy infrastructure facility was carried out on the territory of the town of Oriol. In this case, we observe a similar attempted attack. However, the video footage clearly shows a direct hit by a Ukrainian drone on the grounds of a power plant, followed by an explosion. Nevertheless, in this instance, the strike did not result in a blackout or any serious disruptions to power supply. Apparently, the attack proved to be ineffective and failed to achieve its intended objectives. Now let us move directly to the line of contact. Over the past 24 hours, a large number of important reports have emerged, and we will begin with the Zaporizhia direction, where the Russian Federation is resuming active offensive operations. The Zaporizhia offensive is gradually gaining momentum. Let us start with the area around the city of Zaporizhia. Today, significant video footage has appeared from this sector, showing Russian drone operators striking the city, more precisely, targeting railway infrastructure and freight trains. As a result of these strikes, several trains were destroyed. Explosions and secondary detonations were recorded following the hits. According to Russian sources, these freight trains may have been transporting ammunition intended to supply Ukrainian units along the front line. As for the line of contact itself, over the past day, Russian units have been recorded advancing in the area of the settlement of Primorske. The corresponding changes are already reflected on maps published by various neutral cartographic services. According to their data, Russian forces managed to improve their positions within this settlement and move very close to the village of Richin. Based on the current configuration of the front line and incoming information, it cannot be ruled out that the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation will officially confirm this advance in the near future. In the eastern Zaporizhia direction, combat operations are continuing along almost the entire line of the Haicha River on the Ukrainian-controlled bank. Today, Russian sources published video materials showing fighting in the area of the settlement of Zelena. According to this footage, Russian units managed to significantly strengthen their positions in this sector. Later, this information was indirectly confirmed by pro-Ukrainian sources, which noted Russian advances in the northern part of Huliaipol and in the area of Zelen in their map adjustments. Subsequently, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation also confirmed the advance and the establishment of stable control over this area. Based on this information, maps were updated accordingly. Whereas just yesterday, January 8, 2026, the front line looked different, today it has taken on new contours. We can see that the final segment of the so-called Zaporizhia defensive line is being squeezed from both sides. In the near future, the Russian army will most likely begin an assault on the Pryluki-Alino-Kostiantynivka line, simultaneously from the north and the south. If this defensive sector is breached, Russian units will gain access to operational depth and the ability to advance rapidly westward along two defensive lines toward the city of Oreshnik. The offensive in this sector continues to gain momentum. Next, we move to the Kostiantynivka direction. Here, a minor adjustment has been recorded. Ukrainian sources published video footage showing FPV drone strikes against Russian units moving along the N32 highway. Based on this material, the front line was slightly adjusted. The next sector is the Sloviansk front. This is where the most significant changes over the past 24 hours have been recorded. The main adjustments concern combat operations around the city of Lyman. For clarity, let us compare the maps. This is how the situation looked on January 8, 2026, and this is how it looks today. Units of the armed forces of the Russian Federation have managed to form a semi-encirclement of the eastern and southeastern parts of Lyman. Neutral cartographic services report that Russian units have almost physically cut the T-0514 highway, thereby significantly complicating logistics for Ukrainian forces in this direction. In addition, according to the same sources, Russian troops have entered the city of Lyman from the north. As a result, the eastern and southeastern flanks are being compressed, and the pace of the offensive is likely to increase further in the near future. Information has also emerged today about the advance of Russian units in the area of the city of Zaporizhia. A video has been published showing Russian soldiers already operating in the northeastern part of the settlement. An increasing number of videos related to fighting for Zaporizhia are appearing online. In effect, the defense of this sector has collapsed, and the Russian army is launching an active offensive on the Izium axis, bypassing Sloviansk from the north. After Zaporizhia, combat operations are likely to unfold for the settlements of Tetianivka, Prishib, and Bohorodichne. I would like to remind you that fierce fighting for these areas already took place in 2022. However, following the Ukrainian Kyiv counter-offensive, Russian units were forced to withdraw from these positions. The current advance opens the way for the Russian army toward the northern part of Sloviansk, as well as toward a large forested area located just north of the city. Most likely, this forest massif is one of the key objectives. If Russian forces secure control over this area, they will be able to actively employ FPV drones deeper into Sloviansk itself, as well as against Ukrainian logistics routes leading to the city. On the Kupiansk front, minor changes have also been recorded. Today, a number of pro-Russian experts and neutral cartographic resources reported that Russian units managed to improve their positions in the area of the settlement of Tishchenkova. Based on this information, the map was adjusted accordingly. It cannot be ruled out that this information will soon be officially confirmed by the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation. In the Sumy direction, Russian units continue their active advance southward toward the city of Sumy. At present, they have moved very close to the settlements of Mala Kochkarivka and Kochkarivka. This information is primarily confirmed by neutral cartographic sources. At the same time, the dynamics in this sector remain high. The advance is confirmed by pro-Ukrainian, pro-Russian, and independent analysts alike. In the near future, fighting is likely to begin directly for this defensive line. The Russian army will gradually move into the Sumy forest, a large forested area located north and northeast of the city of Sumy. That's all for now, dear friends. Thank you for staying with us. Subscribe to the channel, leave your likes, and all the best to you.